Well, one story that we've been following closely has been the actions that have been taken by Israeli troops yesterday on the border with Gaza, where we now believe 60 people have died as a result of their injuries from the shootings yesterday. And criticism has continued to flow from different quarters since Israel's decision to open fire on citizens yesterday. We're now joined in studio by Ben Swart, who's from the SA Zionist Federation. Thank you very much for joining us and welcome to the program.
Thank you, Peter. Good afternoon.
All right, so when you got the news and saw this unfortunate incident unfolding, what were your thoughts and reaction?
Well, we've seen what's been prevailing over the last 6 to 8 weeks. I think every effort has been made to make the message very clear that the sovereignty of the Israeli Green Line, the border with Gaza, should not be breached. It comes back to an internationally recognized border and the rights of a people in their state to defend that from people trying to breach it.
So how is it that people ended up being killed yesterday?
I think the way in which it's been painted by Hamas to the world is that this was a peaceful demonstration. If you followed the information that's been readily available, it was nothing but a peaceful demonstration. The intent was literally to burst through the border and to infiltrate into Jewish, or should we say Israeli communities in southern Israel. And I need to go forward and give a sense, because people say it's exactly that. It was a peaceful demonstration. This is the instruction that was put on social media to demonstrators by the Hamas leadership. They say as follows: the demonstrators are requested to please act in accordance with a demand to bring a knife or a gun, to hide them under their clothes and not use them except where there is need to capture soldiers or residents of Israel.
All right, so
that's not peaceful. That is not a peaceful protest. That has intent. That has intent.
So do we know that the people that were killed were carrying arms?
Whether they are or they aren't, I would assume, and bear in mind, I'm in South Africa here, and I'm not on the ground in Israel as you aren't. I would believe that as people are trying to burst through with the use, and it's been recorded through the use of Molotov cocktails, hand grenades, shooting at forces, and the like, that the intention was there to forcefully and in a militant way to penetrate the border. So yes, I would assume that it is likely the case.
We've just heard from somebody who visits Palestine every 3 months and spends 3 months there, and she says that the information she's getting is that all that they had was stones. They didn't have knives or other arms with them.
I think it's been documented and it's been proven that that's incorrect.
So the ANC has instructed the Minister of International Relations to downgrade the South African embassy in Tel Aviv in 2 weeks' time. Your thoughts on that? Because this seems to be escalating now and we could be heading to a complete breakdown in diplomatic relations between the two countries.
It is. I think the anti-Israel lobby in South Africa have been pushing for this strategically to position this. I don't believe that the ANC's recall last night was a knee-jerk reaction. They were waiting for the opportunity. I truly believe that it had been planned and mapped. As I said, if anyone's been watching the unrolling of the developments over the last 8 weeks, people were pushed to the border. People were given instruction. Knowing the outcome, people within the ANC, I believe, were ready literally to pull that trigger, and it happened.
Major powers, France, Britain, have all condemned the killing yesterday. It seems that your only allies are perhaps countries like the US, and that you're getting less and less people supporting the actions that you took.
Ironically, you say the US, but I think there's a multitude of countries that have come out saying Israel has a right to defend its sovereign borders, and we agree with that. But Peter, I put to you and I put to the viewers, why has the Saudi Arabian, the Bahraini, the United Arab Emirates, why has the Egyptian governments all been so quiet? Because they know what's going on. They know how this has been created to create ferment by Hamas. Hamas, an organization that has sworn in its doctrine and its beliefs to be responsible for the destruction of Israel, whether by expelling or killing the Jews that live in the land. And here you have the largest components of the Arab world actually being silent. Isn't that a bit odd? Is that not perhaps a tacit endorsement of Israel's rights to protect their sovereign borders.
You know, when you've got troops that are armed with guns and they're trained to kill, could there have been another way to put down protests?
You know, Peter, I'm not a military expert, and you're not a military expert. What I do know is that over the last few weeks, Israel has been dropping flyers throughout the whole of Gaza, imploring the Gazans to stay away from the border, to say, don't go up to the border. We don't want you there. It could be dangerous. It could be violent. They gave all the precursors. And I also just want to broach the downgrade with the ANC. If the ANC was actually applying their minds to how they could help deconflate the situation, then they would have known, as we all know, they host the Hamas leadership here quite often. So no doubt they've got the red line to the leadership of Hamas. If they had applied their minds over the last 6 to 8 weeks, as opposed to gunning for the downgrade, and instead saying, guys, we can see what's coming because we're strategic and we're tactical and we know how this is going to play out, then surely they could have picked up that phone and said, guys, stay away from the fence, protest, do everything you want, but don't try and burst the sovereign fence which protects and separates the two people.
Are you saying that there was a definite movement to the fence, or were you preventing a possibility of them getting to the fence?
Let's just clarify, you say you.
I mean,
Peter, I'm a South African Jew, and I represent the South African Jewish community, and many millions of South African Christians that support our view, and I say that quite convincingly. Right. But I just had to rectify that, and I forgot your question.
I was just saying, you talk about this fence, and I'm wondering... Yeah, the border. I'm wondering, were they moving towards and actually wanting to break through? Because all we have at the moment is...
They were on the fence. From what I understand, where the real turmoil is happening is as people are actually engaging on the fence.
So
and that's been the one, don't go onto the fence.
They would have gone through the fence.
If they had not shot, well, they were armed with various forms of weaponry, means to get through the... I do want to quote the leader of Hamas, who needs to take accountability for what's going on, Mahmoud al-Zahar, who just last week, #2 in Gaza, where he publicly pronounced, we are going to burst through this border and we are going to tear their hearts out. This is on the record. Now, you put all these, if we unpack what you've just spoken about and we put it all together...
You have extremist voices on both sides and people that will say things, but the majority of people are reasonable, wouldn't you say?
Indeed.
And so I can't believe that all 60 people, and I'm getting reports now that one of them was a 10-month-old baby that died from tear gas inhalation.
So what is a 10-month-old baby doing in a conflict zone, which it is now, where everyone knows it's a conflict zone? What was a 10-month-old baby doing there at the forefront? That baby should have been at home, in its room. There was risk. Everyone knew there was risk. But no, Hamas applies this rule of taking a civilian population. We've seen it over the years, putting them at the forefront and using their devious ideas of trying to crack and break into Israel and compromising everyone, their civilians, their women, and their young. And they need to be held accountable for this.
But at the same time, authorities then, surely, knowing that they are genuine civilians, must exercise even more restraint.
The civilians need to stay away from the conflict zone. Everyone has been warned. No one wants anyone to die. And I can assure you, being a supporter of Israel, and we talk about the general population, Israel wants to peacefully coexist with its neighbors. Israel would do anything to secure a resolution to the conflict and to those that are suffering in Gaza. But they can't do it under the threat of a gun. People need to step back and people need to deconflate the situation and at best try and get everyone back to the table. And that's the role the ANC should be playing.
We're going to have to leave it there, but thank you very much indeed for sharing your thoughts and insights with us.